There's a great GAA museum in Croke Park, but something extra has been added to it for the next few months. Because Croke Park has a great tradition, amongst other things, in boxing. And we're joined by Barry McGuigan, well known to his former world featherweight champion, and also by Jim Houlihan, who is the curator of Fighting Irishmen, celebrating Celtic prize fighters from 1820 to present. Hello to you both.
Hello.
And Jim, there are lots and lots of great Irish boxers, isn't there, for the last 2 centuries?
Oh, terrific. We have a number of the current fighters who the people would recognize, like Kenny Egan and Katie Taylor and Andy Lee and John Duddy and all of them. And then we have a lot of the greats from the past. We have memorabilia, personal ephemera, film, photos of Dempsey, Tunney, Braddock, Kahn, John L. Sullivan, James
tell us a
Corbett.
bit about those names, because they were of an era. They're from nearly a century ago at this stage.
Yeah.
So how significant figures were they, particularly in America?
John L. Sullivan was the biggest sporting hero of the 19th century, and he was first generation Irish, born to two Irish parents who emigrated, and at that time the Irish were treated as second-class citizens, so he was a huge hero and a symbol of success and being able to persevere and
open doors and create opportunities for the Irish and give them respect and dignity and, you know, give us the kudos that we wanted. He was an amazing guy. He was the most famous guy in America. Jack Dempsey was the most famous guy in America. We had Gene Tunney, who's the next guy who took over from him. War hero, incredible guy.
These were the Muhammad Alis of their day, weren't they? It's not an exaggeration to say that.
Absolutely not an exaggeration. And Jim, I'm sure you'll agree. I mean, from a sporting perspective, there was no bigger sport in those days than boxing, because it could bring, I mean, for example, Jimmy McLaren, who came around at the time of the recession or the depression in America, he could put 50,000 people into Yankee Stadium and the likes. He was a phenomenal success.
And Jim, how aware were they of their Irish roots? How much did they actually show their Irishness?
Well, very much so. John O'Sullivan, who we mentioned, who was the last bare-knuckle champion, he bridged the bare knuckle to the first. He lost in the first gloved heavyweight championship fight to James Corbett. After John O'Sullivan retired, he came to Ireland because he wanted to visit the place of his ancestors, and he made a particular effort to get to Kilcullen because he wanted to see Donnelly's Hollow and walk in the steps of Dan Donnelly. So I think it was very important to him and a number of them, and a guy like Gene Tunney, whose father was a dock worker, and Gene had to leave school at 14, 15 to support the family because his father became ill. Took great pride in his Irish heritage and in reading, and they were great examples.
How aware, Barry, were you of the sort of the heritage that you were inheriting when you became a world champion?
Well, I mean, I was just another Irish fighter that was successful. I mean, I came around.
There been a big gap at the time when you won your world title.
There had been a big gap. The last sort of, from an amateur perspective, we have done amazingly well all through the generations. But from a professional perspective, really, it was Johnny Caldwell and Freddie Gilroy who were the last big hitters, if you like, in the 60s. And then there was a gap. And then Charlie Nash came around, but Charlie didn't have many of his fights in Ireland. He had most of them over in England, and he did have some shows, but he was sort of relatively successful. And then I came along and was able to, win the British, European, and world title again. So it was very important to me, because I think at the time it was the political aspect that really sort of added to the issue, and being a sort of an Irishman from the south and fighting in the north. My family are all from the north, and boxing for the British title in a very, very hostile time, not taking any sides. My dad singing Danny Boy, boxing with the United Nations flag of peace, my shorts made out of that. That was a hugely significant time.
I want to remind people of it, because we actually have a clip of the fight, the famous fight, the night you won the title at Loftus Road, the Queen's Park Rangers Stadium, Eusebio Pedrosa. We're just going to hear a little bit of it.
McGuigan boxing cleverly now on the defence as Pedrosa comes in, leads with his head. The referee separates them. There's 10 seconds to go. McGuigan on a rope, off the ropes, takes a left to the body, and the champion has no venom left. As McGuigan goes for the big finish, catches him with the right hand. It's all over. It's all over. And surely Barry McGuigan must be the champion of the world. But we shall have to wait on the official decision. certainly his mentors, his management of the ring, have no doubt at all that he's the winner. He's raised to the skies here at QPR.
The result, a unanimous decision.
Unanimous decision.
Barry McGuigan is the new WHPR World Champion.
Barry, you're still smiling. It brings a smile to your face. 1985.
Yeah, Danny Small was the guy who was the MC who announced that, and he said it sort of back to front. Barry McGuigan instead of the world champion is. But yeah, he that was significant too. It was a great time. My God, it's hard to believe 25 years ago. I keep thinking I'm a kid, Matt, and then I look at myself in the mirror and oh my God, look at that old man. Who is he?
But in fairness, Jim, he's weathered better than many other boxers, hasn't he?
Yeah, and also been a big success in the ring. We talked a little bit before we came on air how a lot of fighters come from nothing and reach the heights only to go crashing down again. But Barry's been a great success in journalism and TV.
But that is a reasonable point, given the difficulties that many boxers have had coping without the adulation, without the wealth that actually comes as well, and sort of losing it all. Yeah. How many of the people that you feature have actually suffered bad times afterwards?
Well, I think a lot of fighters, first of all, not all fighters become champions. I mean, they have to go through a lot just to climb the stairs to get into the ring, a lot of courage, but and a lot of them don't get looked after properly and take too many fights at the end of their career. But if you think in terms of some of the people we just spoke about, Gene Tunney married an heiress and was very wealthy and kept all his money, and Jack Dempsey was a big success, and a number of these guys did find ways to convert.
Jimmy McLarnon was a superb success.
A successful businessman after he left the ring. So it's not a truism that all fighters wind up broken down.
How much video footage do you have for this exhibition, given that many of the people that you're talking about fought in an era where it wasn't televised?
Well, we have... I actually, in doing the research, probably looked at several hundred hours of video, and we have a couple of hours of clips. We'd have Barry and Muhammad Ali's fight at Croke Park against Blue Lewis.
1972. That was such a major event back in those days as well.
Yeah, and we have actually, the GA has added to the exhibit the trunks and the gloves that Ali wore in that fight. And we have footage of Tunney and Dempsey and James Corbett. Actually, the first movie that Thomas Edison recorded was a sparring session of James Corbett, who was the champion then, against a sparring partner. First film ever made. Boxing was a subject. And one other thing I would mention, we were talking about John L. Sullivan. He was the greatest sportsman of the 19th century. In a poll for the first half of the 20th century, Jack Dempsey was voted the best sportsman, and for the entire 20th century, another Irishman, Muhammad Ali, was voted the greatest sportsman.
Yeah, we had people on from Clare, all right, last year, claiming the roots for Muhammad Ali. Just to finish with you, though, Barry McGuigan, we've had Michael Cruz back in '92 winning the gold medal, and then we had all the successes as well in the last Olympics, the likes of Kenny Egan. Where do you think boxing is heading in Ireland? I mean, is boxing going to remain a vibrant sport in Ireland?
Without doubt. 90% of the Olympic success of Irish athletes comes through boxing. 95% actually. So it is an amazingly successful sport per capita. 4 million of us we are producing phenomenal successful kids. That's down to the coaching standards, that's down to the people who train and commit, and all the coaching staff, the high performance, Gary Keegan, Dominic O'Rourke, Billy Walsh, Jerry Story, Michael Hawkins, all of the coaches all over the country who've committed a lifetime to them. It's terrific, it's terrific contribution to the sport, and they deserve great credit. And can I say, I know you're anxious to go, but one more before we go. Jim on my right here, he is solely responsible for driving this exhibition. He's put thousands and thousands of pounds and thousands of hours into it, and we all owe him a great debt of gratitude to keep our names alive, and to keep, for those names that we've forgotten about, to keep them alive. He deserves a great level of gratitude.
Well, the Fighting Irishmen exhibition is running in the Ash Suite of the Cusack stand in Croke Park from today until Tuesday the 31st of May, so it's only here for a couple of weeks.
No, 31st of August.
31st of August, excuse me, had it wrong, but that's good to know. Give people plenty of time to get there. Adult tickets €5, concession €4, children $2.50, and family tickets €12, and discount tickets to include a Croke Park Stadium tour are also available. Thank you to both of you for joining us.
Thanks for having us, Matt.